speaker, I introduce and welcome Professor T.K. Venkatasubramanian sir. I'll give a very quick introduction of our respected resource person. Professor T.K. Venkatasubramanian sir began his academic career as an assistant professor in 1971 and later served as professor with the Tamil Nadu Collegiate Education Service from 1980 to 1984. In 1984, he joined the Delhi University as a reader, became professor in 94, and continued until his superannuation in August 2012. At Delhi University, he held several key administrative positions, including the Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, Head of the Department of History, and member of the Academic Council. He was also the chairman of the governing body of Kirodimal College and contributed to academic and policy-making bodies such as the UGC AICTE DEC Joint Committee, Indian Council of Historical Research as member secretary, IGNOU School Board, and the Indian History Congress, where he served as treasurer and joint secretary. Sir's area of specialization include the social and economic history of peninsular India and the social history of performing arts, with an interdisciplinary approach. Sir has authored significant works such as Political Change and Agrarian Tradition in South India, Evolution of Political Society in South India, and Music as History in Tamil Nadu. Alongside scholarship, he is also a performing Mridangam artist, a graded Akashvani and Doordarshan performer, and has accompanied leading Carnatic veterans. Sir has produced documentaries, educational material for IGNOU, and a 17-hour video on Tal for the Sangeet Natak Academy. I welcome Professor T.K. Venkatasubramanian sir and request him to kindly enlighten us with his session.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are. Please.
Thank you. From the introduction, people would have got confused, but in the classification, it has been made clear. Instrument and history. Let me begin from there. That will explain why I am here today. And I thank the authorities for giving me this opportunity. Throughout my life, I've been riding on two horses, that is music and history. And now in my superannuation, I'm trying to combine both. Let me begin with the topic and the objectives, so that why I have chosen this title, that will become clear. Indigenous knowledge of performing and visual arts and its relevance in higher education. So arts per se and their relevance in higher education, it is the topic, and the objectives have been made abundantly clear. To engage critically with indigenous knowledge in performing and visual arts. One, to understand the historical, cultural, and philosophical foundation of Indian arts. Three, to foster interdisciplinary research on Indian knowledge systems and to promote the integration of Indian arts into modern pedagogy. I joined early so that I could get the benefit of my previous speakers' ideas on national educational policy. As an educator, I share entirely the importance of the policy. But I would like to begin with one, my ideas on conceptual understanding of a discipline. Conceptual understanding of a discipline that made me choose the topic time. I have chosen the concept of time, and that concept enables us to understand historical, cultural, and philosophical foundations of history also, theater also, music also, and many other disciplines. Then the second part, indigenous knowledge about time and its dynamics in each one of these disciplines. I would like to give you what happened in history as far as time is concerned. That's why I have called it time as a metaphor in history, in theater, that is theater, and as well as in music. Although I'll be speaking mostly on music, but I would like to give you how to think about it in the other two disciplines as well. Then it helps us.
Sir, apologies to interrupt you. There's been a request if you can keep your session bilingual, because several of our participants would be more comfortable in Hindi as well. So if it's comfortable, it's okay.
See, I can. This is slightly technical, so I will try to be bilingual, but I am not used to bilingual.
I understand, sir.
Okay, I'm not used to. I don't believe in mixing up languages. I will try to be as simple as possible.
Thank you, sir.
So, indigenous knowledge about time and its dynamics in theater and music, it helps us to think about two disciplines, history and music, in an interdisciplinary manner. हिंदी में बात करना बड़ा मुश्किल क्यों है? मेरा जो अप्रोच है ये सब्जेक्ट का, इस विषय पे सारे रीडिंग्स है, सारे अंग्रेजी में है, इसलिए अनुवाद करके बात करना थोड़ा मुश्किल होगा. कभी कभी हम हिंदी में स्विच ओवर करके एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए कोशिश करेंगे. My speaking language is English. I won't be.
That's all right, sir. That's perfectly all right.
See, the thing is, mere interdisciplinary studies just to prescribe interdisciplinary thinking is one thing, and to implement it is another. It is very good, because we are living in a knowledge society, and we are not. We are in 21st century, where the mantra is multidisciplinary thinking and interdisciplinarity. I already have a paper in Sangeet Natak. I have given in my biodata the reference number. Those who are interested can read that. It was my Nurul Hasan Memorial Lecture. It is for both music and history. When we want to bring in the rigor of another discipline into the discipline of music, that is what I'm trying to do now. There is a range of writings on time. These writings, unfortunately, are not available in Hindi or in Hindi translation. You will yourself understand when I give you a list. It is not to frighten people, but only to show that so much of thinking has gone into it. That means that much of knowledge has been produced on it. Time. I will first give the list, and then I will go into each one of them, where I will try to speak in Hindi as well. The range of works to be referred are the following. To take the Indian situation, Anand Kumar Sami was the first to write on time and eternity, way back in 1947. And then one A.N. Balslev, a study of time in Indian philosophy, he wrote in 1983. The Indian edition has been brought out by Motilal Banarsidass in 2009. And in Delhi University itself, Professor H.S. Prasad edited a volume on time in Indian philosophy, a collection of essays. And J.N. Fraser edited Voices of Time, 1986. K.K. Mandal, it's a very important work, a comparative study of the concepts of space and time. See here, once again, I would like to emphasize that I am indulging in a kind of a conceptual thinking on rhythm, particularly the South Indian rhythm. I'll come back to that a little later. Then Jonathan Kramer, The Time of Music, New York, 1988. Then Kapila Vatsyayan edited a volume in 1996. It is published from IGNCA, Concept of Time, Ancient and Modern. Then people who have been working on religion also have written about it. Fred Clothy, Rhythm and Intent. Then, particularly on music, I was impressed with the latest work by one Martin Clayton, Time in Indian Music. I would like every music teacher to read this regarding the quality of the thesis. Rhythm, meter, and form in North Indian Rag performance. Oxford Monographs, 2008. Then Louis Rowell's work of 1998 is known to everybody. When it comes to history, Romila Thapar, Time as a Metaphor, you have all heard. And let us try to see how each discipline has been influenced or has used this concept of time. So now, what is time? Along with space, time has assumed importance. In fact, one of my historian friends, who is no more, very venerated Professor Bartenstein, people might have heard his name, he was asked a question, why is history so contested? Then his answer was, historians do selective compression of time and space. That is the problem. So along with time, space, time attained in the modern world, the fundamental dimension of existence, a measure and frame of all action and inaction, of change and movement, of progress and growth, and thereby life and vitality. But there is a difference between space and time. Space has a definite ontological status, but there is no clarity on the ontological status of time till now. So we take it as a human construct. Time as a human construct, first and foremost, the medium of orientation for the social world, regulating it in relation to human life. This is the definition of Norbert Elias. And another person, Lebovic, has said, it is better to think about time through its functions, fields of operation, or its contextualization, and through its multiplicity, rather than defining it philosophically. Koselleck has argued that the multiplicity is a product of modernity. And Francois Hartog is also of the opinion that the metaphor of regime, the invention and imposition all over the world of a single universal standard of time. So it is here the invention of Greenwich time, that is what is being talked about, uniform time. So what I want to convey here is the Hegelian or Newtonian time emerged out of 18th century Western Europe and is characterized by homogeneity, discreteness, linearity, and directionality. So directionality here in the modern world, it will be progress towards the future. So by now, friends would have realized that time has got definitely something to do with the past, present, and the future. So the immanence and absoluteness of GMT, Gregorian calendar, BC, AD, chronology, all this are being perceived as product of colonialism. So that means, is there something else? Indigenous. If this is a product of colonialism, what is indigenous time? So that when we go by that, let us come to India. So is it possible to explain simply what is time in Indian thought? So in India, according to Indian cosmology, time is perceived as cyclical. I will come back to this in a detailed manner a little later. On the levels of days, months, years, and world cycles, kalpa. Time and its measure are important throughout Hinduism. This is the observation of Fred Clothy, who has been working on religion. So the idea of cyclicity, that time is lunar, stellar, solar, and world. Ritual time as microcosm of cosmic time. So you make a distinction between cosmic time and ritual time. Western writers have often misunderstood and misrepresented Indian cyclic time, says Balslave. What is the misunderstanding? Cycles are the same in type, but not in detail. Cyclicity may suggest unchange, but repetitiveness suggests renewability also. This is exactly the principle we are going to apply to the rhythm of South India. Cyclicity may suggest changelessness, but repetitiveness suggests renewability also. Music unfolds in a process of continuous development and does not repeat exactly. This development takes largely within the context of a cyclically repeating temporal structure, in other words, Thal. Rowell, I'll come back to that, his formulations. Louis Rowell, who wrote on musical thought in early India, points out that the Indian Thal system shifted from a set of complex modular formal structures to an integrated system designed to facilitate improvisation over a repeated rhythmic cycle. So it is this that we are going to talk about in music a little later. लोगों का समझने के लिए मैं थोड़ा हिंदी में ये ट्रेडिशनल नॉलेज क्या होता है उसके बारे में कुछ आइडियाज हम देना चाहते हैं एंड इट्स एप्लीकेबिलिटी. किसी ने कभी सोचा है इंडिजिनस सिस्टम ऑफ कैलकुलेटिंग टाइम? नाम तो आपको सुना होगा, उसमें से कुछ एक्सप्रेशंस है अभी भी ताल सिस्टम में साउथ इंडिया में मौजूद है. 2 परमाणुस make 1 anu. I'm giving you this indigenous system of calculating time as per ancient texts. 2 paramanus make 1 anu. Anu is atom. 3 anus makes 1 tracer anu. 3 tracer anu becomes 1 truti, Truti. 100 trutis becomes 1 tatpara. 30 tatparas is 1 nimisha. This any musician would understand. Those who have gone through the text, nimisha is very, very important for us. 3 nimishas makes 1 shana. This is also familiar to all of us. 6 shanas makes 1 kashta. This is also familiar to people. Kashta originally was calculated as 3.2 seconds by somebody. Erroneously. We are not going into those mistakes, but just remember only the names from the recoverable from our ancient texts. Nimisha is one, Kshana is another, Kashta is another. The next one is very, very important. 15 Kashtas makes 1 Lagu. Anyone who is familiar with the South Indian Thal system, I will come back to that because that is the purpose of this lecture. Indigenous knowledge, how it has developed into the Thala system in the 17th, 18th, and 19th century, how it is being practiced now. That is the lecture actually. 15 kashtas makes 1 lagu. Then 15 lagus make 1 nadika. And 3 nadikas make 1 muhurta. So people earlier calculated it as 48 minutes. 7.5 nadikas was 1 prahara. 4 yamas, 1 day or night. 15 nights, 1 paksha. 2 pakshas, 1 month. 2 months, 1 ritu. 6 months, one ayana. All of us, we know Dakshinayana and Uttarayana. 2 ayanas make 1 year, day and night of the gods. And then we go on to yugas. This is the way that our ancients calculated. So they went on to Chatur Yuga and 1200 years of Kali Yuga, 2400 years of Dwapara Yuga, 3800 years of Treta Yuga, 600 of Treta Yuga, 4800 of Satya Yuga. So then 1000 Satya Yugas, 1 day of Brahma. So they started calculating the celestial life also. 1000 into 14 Manus. And from Manus, we have Manu Swayambhu, Manu Ayodhya, etc. So the first event that they calculated actually was Mahabharata war and assassination of Krishna, Kali Yuga, etc. So people have calculated. We are not going into details on that. I just wanted to give you a feel of the indigenous knowledge and how this is actually calculated. So now, next idea that I would like to give is how the time as a metaphor was perceived by the historian. One may agree with him, her, or one may not agree also. So now each discipline has its own characteristic. So we will come back to music a little later because the applicability is greater here. When it is applied, time as a factor is applied to history, you have to go by the perception of history. If history is a narrative of human activities of the past, there cannot be any dispute on this. Purported to have happened and narrated in the present, the narration is in the present, then such narrative has an underlying sense of time. It happened when it happened yesterday, it happened day before yesterday, it happened 100 years ago, it happened 1500 years ago, it happened 10 minutes ago, it happened 1 second ago. So there is a sense of time. So it is sequential, moving from the earliest to the most recent. Because time is irreversible, the events of the past cannot be altered. The assessment of what constitutes an event and its interpretation as history has become the historian's task. So time concept and historical change interact and projected as either repetitive, recurrent, or periodic. So that is why you got that famous statement, history repeats itself. Whether history repeats itself, doesn't repeat itself, that is a matter of debate. Pointing to a wide stretch of time, concepts ranging from what are viewed as the cyclical to the continuously progressive and directional, suggesting a linear form with many in-between positions, such as a wave or a spiral. So here, people who have read Toynbee, you must have also heard about the spiral theory. However, there is an evident difference between cyclical and linear time. Philosophy makes a difference between cyclical time and linear time. The sharp demarcation between cyclic and linear is made somewhat indistinct by chronological forms, which has introduced a range of mediatory positions. Even in Indian history, Manudar's Dharma Sastra, Mahabharata, until then it is cyclical time. But once you reach the time of Ashoka, you start getting eras as well as renal years, which will be indicative of the linear times. The two has actually coexisted. That is what I want to say. This is the principle we will be applying there also. There will be linear forms in rhythm within the cycles. There is also a possibility of the overlap of the two in some cultures. For example, Puranic culture concepts. So the time reckoning has resulted in calendars. What is the calendar that is being followed world over now? It is the Gregorian calendar. All of you know. The cosmological time, I gave you the example, which is recoverable from our ancient texts. And then what the historians did, and with the Kali age, the time and the decline of Dharma got equated. So beginning of Kali Yuga, Kali crisis. There is a lot of discussions in history. Then influence of the West tried to make the difference between myth and history, fact and fiction. Then historical time, time as a deity, creator, Brahma, etc. So not only historians, there are people who are working on religion, etc., have all also been talking about it. So now what I want to say is for those who are interested, there is a small Oxford India paperbacks, Time as a Metaphor History, Early India, Romila Copper, published way back in 1990s, a lecture which was actually elaborated into a book, a monograph. Now, there is a second aspect. Let us not go into, but I would like everybody to know each discipline. And because we are discussing about time and its problems, how it was grappled, how it was used to explain the historical processes. Say, but for the discussion of time, there would not have been Orientalists at all, early Orientalists, Orientalism, and all that. So let us not go more into the historical part. That is not the purpose. Then in theater, it is important because I have given the title as history, theater, performance tradition. I've said performance tradition. See, performance tradition takes a lot of things from the past. I will give you an example. You must be familiar with Kudiyat of Kerala. What is it is Sanskrit theatre. Everyone knows that. It takes only one act of a Sanskrit drama and elaborates to complete the performance in several days. It runs for several days. Matta Vilasam takes about 12 hours, spread over 3 days and nights. The longest Kudiyatam is called Mantrangam, lasts around 150 hours, 41 days. And the tradition tells us once upon a time, it was played for 100 days. Each night had its own segment as the Atta Prakaram. Atta Prakaram is the manual, handbooks maintained by Chakyars families. So when you apply time here, a person from drama or theater, he will understand or he will appreciate that this art form, Kudiyatam, delinearizes sequence at every point, that its unique temporal mode operates through non-sequential flares, irregular dizzying journeys into the depths of time, unforeseeable links and discontinuities that create new continuities. So David Schulman has recently written, so now the modern time has compelled people to retell. So retelling time is the title of a work which is actually edited and published 2 years ago, in which David Schulman has a paper. So the Kudiyatam provides an example of most complex process for the transformation of a text into performance. Like Kathakali and Yakshagana, Kudiyatam employs multiple communication channels, with each channel having its own fixed procedure and conventions. The most vital channel, dramatic speech, is broken into syllables of small rhythmic units and delivered in a sing-song manner with chanting of Vedic hymns. it is here that it is the ancient Indian practices. The role of Vidushak coming down from the classical Sanskrit drama has been elaborated with changes. He creates humor, of course. He speaks anti-shloka to the shlokas recited by hero. The verbal communication in Kudiyatam is in 3 modes, like that. A lot of people have actually written. What I mentioned about Shulman here, because one popular play is Torana Yuddham. People might have heard about. Shulman, in this paper which I was referring, To Battle at the Gate is the English translation of that, a 7-day-long play enacting Act 3 of a medieval drama known as Abhisheka Nadakam, one of the southern Ramayana plays. Shulman writes, if we examine the total performance is planned and conceived in the Ata Prakaram manuals, we see at once that it begins with the final, seemingly overdetermined result of those 2 curses. It then works backward, the moment when the curses were actually uttered and the circumstances that generated them. All this is enacted within retrospection as a future-oriented set of events. That is why he calls it as a prolepsis. The purpose of referring to this book is that how time operates in performance tradition. But now let us come to our main discussion, that is music, and particularly Indian rhythm. In India, there are 2 methods of reckoning. One is called Gana Vrita, another is called Matra Vrita. In European poetry, there is no long and short syllables. We have long and short. Even Sanskrit also has. In Tamil, we call it Nedil and Tiril. In Sanskrit, we call it Krishwa, Dirga, and Parvana. The Indian poetry is Varnavrita, that is based on syllables. And the sharp unit is called Matra.
सर प्लीज अनम्यूट कर लीजिए, आप म्यूट हो गए हैं।
Sir, Subramaniam sir, you are make yourself unmute. No, it was mute हो गया था गलती से. No sir, still not audible.
Now,
Yes sir, yes.
I think I'll begin from what I missed. In European poetry, there is no long and short syllables, but in India, we have Krishwa, Dirga, and Parvana. Or in India, Indian poetry is Varnavrita, that is based on syllables. The short unit is equal to Matra. Permutating short and long syllables, many varieties of meters have been arrived at. So Matra in poetry and Matra in music, unfortunately, they are not one and the same. Matra is the time required to utter 5 short syllables. Kachata tapa. That is the Matra Kala. But Greeks have an equivalent name, Chronos Protos. Bharata in 4th century says Matra is a tala of 4 feet. Chechet Puta, Dvikala, Trikala, all our evolution of Marga and Sangita, Marga Sangita, all that evolved from these terms. We have to allow time for the music to evolve. And it is very difficult to track each stage. We can only go by the expressions and the explanations available in commentaries. Interestingly, Sangeeta Ratnakara clearly mentions Matra as Nimisha Kala. So when you get a text like Sangeeta Ratnakara, Matra is defined as Nimisha Kala, time required to utter 5 syllables. It is mentioned in Kalinatha's commentary as well. So to bring in rigor, if you come across terms, then we have to identify the term and the changing, how it has evolved, which are the ones which have actually evolved, and how it is mentioned by each text and also by the commentaries. This duration of time coincides with the second of Western clock. Later on, it became 4 syllables. So we have Nimisha, we have Lagu, then the double of it is Guru, the triple of it is Plitam, because I'm going to show later on one exercise where the Plitam is shown and sung. So that will be played last. Because this is again one other thing which I have learned. I have served in EMPC and all. Sometimes, unless you play with the instrument, PPT doesn't work. I'm sorry. I may be, if I have a different opinion, I may be pardoned. So PPT is very, and then the creativity also gets killed. The thought process gets affected. So Lagu, Guru, Plitam as multiples of 4. Half of it was Dhritam, quarter of it was Anudhritam. So when you get this kind of a set, you call it Shodasanga. So classical authors, Lagu is a matra, Dhritam half madra, Anudhritam 1/4 madra. Once by 14th, 15th century, these things take shape. We are able to compare it with the Western development as well. Lagu is equivalent to minim, Dhritam is equivalent to crotchet, Anudhritam is equivalent to quaver, Guru is equivalent to semi-brevi, and Kakapada 16 is equivalent to brevi. And the odd rhythms were given the term virama. So now let us go back to what people have thought about it. Now slowly we have gone into the subject of rhythm. Swami Pragyananda, the person who first wrote on history of, he was the one who attempted history of Indian music. He has a chapter on rhythm and tempo from pages 72 to 74. Rhythm is fundamental in all arts. In music, it is the ebb and flow of longer and shorter tones and tone groups. Meter is a certain regularity in rhythmic or temporal patterns marked by accents. Now, accents, sonic theology is being worked out in all music cultures. Tapping all tones, we become aware of the differences in duration. By tapping beats, the regularity of music becomes apparent. In Vedic times, of course, it was Chanda, composed by letters only, which we call Aksharas, Gayatri, Jagati, etc. Accents, Krishva, Dirgha, and Pluta. Varnas, the Swara gets classified accordingly. Natya Sastra starts mentioning about Nimisha and the 5 parts. Kala, Kashta is also mentioned in Natya Shastra. Gradual evolution of Chitra, Vartika, and Dakshina, that is 2, 4, and 8 matra perceptions are also coming into the text. And now finally we arrive at what is called TDP. It is not Telugu Desam Party, it is Tala Dasa Pranas. Shodasanga and Shadanga. That is 1 to 16, evolution has already come in. And basic potency, it is also made into Devatas, etc. Then it is further classified into Sasabda Kriyas and Nisabda Kriyas, Tali and the Kali. And the Nishabda Kriya has Avapa, closed finger, Nishkrama, fingers downwards, Vikshpa, then right side, then similarly Sasabda Kriyas, Dhruva, Tala, Sannipata, etc. The evolution actually takes place. So now this is the tracking of names, evolution, measurement of duration, etc. Then when it comes to perception and discussion at a higher level, it is here that where the higher education should take cognizance of. So I may be given about 5-10 minutes to explain this. I just mentioned about Louis Rowan, musical thought in early India. To my mind, he was the first person who formulated certain principles and organized the material available in our texts to establish that. What did he do? And Louis Rowell has marshaled evidence in support of his 6 propositions. What are the 6 propositions? Concepts of temporal organization in the music of early India reflect the influence of the prevailing cultural ideology. What is the prevailing cultural ideology? Concept of vocal sound production reflects traditional thinking. So the syllables, utterance, accents, etc., he has marshaled. The second proposition, among the most powerful pressures on the arts of India have been cultural preferences for the circular disposition of space and cyclical disposition of time. He definitely says circular space and cyclical disposition of time. He has marshaled evidences for that, and it has evolved over a period of time. Then the third proposition is the temporal structure of Indian music is signaled by both visibly and audibly. Both visibly and audibly. In North Indian music, the main artist doesn't keep time, but in South India, you would have found he would have claps, counting, finger. I will show some evidence a little later. So this, in every music culture, is called gesture language with symbolic ritual connotations. This is this aspect which is actually engaging the attention of research scholars abroad. How to connect the gesture language with accent and ritual connotations. This is called sonic theology. Then the fourth one is the musical experience as traditionally conceived appears to demonstrate a confluence of 2 simultaneous streams of time. A time, physical, divisible, external time, and an internal stream of continuous time devoid of distinction. It is here that we go back to our text. Time is both time and timeless also. This we can trace it into Maitri Upanishad. These are assuredly 2 forms of Brahma, and this is being perceived as Brahma. Brahma is both time and timeless. Time is a form of formless one also. The words chosen are coined to represent the various temporal concepts contain etymological clues suggesting that temporality in music is understood as a manifestation of the cosmic process of continuous creation. So why it is associated with Brahma? It's understood. 6, among the key words for the organization of time in music have been 3, namely control, limitation, and equilibrium. So philosophers have applied this. Much of the human experience of temporality in music arises as a result of our perception of time as an immense hierarchy of smallest rhythmic units, intermediate levels of structure, and larger structural levels. So very interestingly, if you go back to our Vedas, Atharva Veda 19 has full description of time. So that is how indigenous knowledge is recoverable. Time draws 7 wheels. Time is the father and also the son. Time begat heaven above and earth below. Time created the earth and burns the sun. Time is mind, time is breath. Time is the Lord of all things and father of Prajapati. Time having become the Brahman bears the most exalted one. So we go back to our indigenous. It was perceived as Brahma. Time was perceived as Brahma. Atharva Veda description makes it a complex metaphor of cosmic generating principle born of inner energy. Time emerges as a causal power and a procreative force, a ripening force or arja, Brahman, capable of prasara. This is the characteristic feature of Indian culture. Permutation, and a definer, a deity, and finally a circular one. Multiple images of circularity dominate the language of the hymn. The chariot, wheels, spokes, hubs, and axles, and the sun, the ear, the eye, the cycle of human life, and the generations. The cycle of time can be interpreted as a symbol of man's quest for continuity. The idea of cycle later came to denote limitation also. Profound connections between the concept of time, ritual action, and the structure of music evolved gradually. The control of musical structure by symbolic gestures, the special connections of breath in the production of musical sound are important. So to put it in a nutshell, gesture, breath, and tala gained importance. So when you get this importance in Abhinava Gupta's Abhinava Bharati, he made the link between the tala and ritual action explicit. So kala, laya, and tala become key concepts in Indian music culture. Kala is both absolute time and a specific unit of measurement of musical time. Tala is time put into the context of music or dance, measured and expressed through various actions of the hand. It is the temporal measure of music. Then what is lay? Lay can be seen as a void or gap between two kriyas. By now, kriyas have also come into being and also denotes tempo of the rhythm of music. Central concepts of musical time have evolved in their meanings and usages from ancient times to the present. Let us take a text, familiar text, Sarangdeva. Let us see what Sarangdeva has to say. You know that Sarangdeva has a separate adhyaya, Tala Adhyaya. He defines the term Tala and describes it as the Adhara or foundation on which Gita, Vadya, and Nritta are established. As in the case of Bharata, he doesn't get into the defining of Kala or abstract time, but highlights its correlation with musical time, Tala. He says, Tala is that time which is measured by the durations of Lagu, Guru, and other Kriyas. So by the time of Sarangdeva, it is absolutely clear that Kriyas have come into existence. And not only that, he visualized Tala as a Kala Kanda. To him, Tala is a means of measuring time, Pramana. Its main components being Kriyas, and all these in the specific context of Sangeeta. So very clearly, by the time of Sarangdeva, at least it has taken shape. Let us not go into the different stages of development at this stage. Let me only briefly say, Bharata connects Tala with Ganavadya. Bharata uses the term Laya, no doubt. Bharata's inclusion of the dramatic element is important, while Sarangdeva mentions it in the context of music, drumming, and dance. That is important to me. Why Sarangdeva chose to omit Laya in his definition is an interesting question which I am looking for an answer. An important landmark in the evolution of the concept of Tala during 15th and 16th centuries is the development of Suradi Saptatalas. Those of you who are familiar with the development of Carnatic music, you might be familiar with the name Purandaradasa. and the importance of the centuries, 15th and 16th centuries, and the writings of researcher R.T. Rao on Suladi forms, etc. So the Suladi Saptatalam crystallizes around 15th, 16th century, and Tala Dasapranas come much later. So the Tala Dasapranas as the rhythmological theory evolves after the evolution of the Suladi Talas. Separate texts came to be dedicated to Tala Dasapranas in the 17th and 18th centuries. When abstract time is placed in the context of Sangeeta, it is Tala. Kala is the superset and Tala is the subset. This Tala is a sequence of action and rest. The actions mark the division of time and the rest measure the duration of the action. Actions and rest are inseparable. In current practice, Kala is speed only. Today, the term Tala denotes a cyclic unit of time measured and reckoned by a specific sequence of actions. That is combination of cycle and the kriyas. I'm going to show an example of that from an unusual, this thing which we are experimenting these days. The measure of a certain number of aksharas and the influence of Vishranti are still there. Lie in addition to tempo has come to mean rhythm in general. For example, in Hindustani, we call it Laikari, and in Carnatic, we call it Laya Vivaharam or Laya Vinyas. So in Hindustani Laikari, it is a variation of rhythm. I have a very wonderful chapter in the recent book I've been reading, Time in Indian Music by Martin Clayton. There is a chapter on Laikari. For those who are interested, I'm recommending this book. So I will only confine myself to the Carnatic system. A continuous textual tradition enables us to track evolutionary stages. Sangeet Ratnakara is indeed a very important text. Now, when we come to the South Indian system, there is a continuity in terms of textual tradition from at least 16th century onwards. So the post Sarangadeva text, Sangeet Ratnakara, there is separate works on Tal, South Indian Tala system, which probably is not the case with Hindustani. So that shows different paths of development. So we have the Suladi Sapta Talas and the 5 variations of the Gati, what we call Tisram 3, Takita, 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 Takadimi, 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 Tatiketatam, Tatiketatam, Tatiketatam. 7 and 9, 3, 4, 5, 7 and 9. So the 5 varieties, 7 into 5 becomes 35 talas. So but in the 19th century, for a person to sit in a concert, he must be a master of the 35 talas. But along with that, there are indications of development of varieties also. We have called the 108 talas, Ashtottara Sata talas, and 72 Melakarta talas based on 72 Melakarta ragas in the 19th century. So my guru, Dr. T.K. Murthy, who is a living legend, 102 years old, on my retirement, he called me and said, I have been playing, whatever I'm playing, it's not getting across. Now you explain. So last 12 years, I have been explaining what we have been playing. So I'm going to play a small clip from one of our experiments, a tala called Pratapasekaram. And it will have a gesture language. The gesture language is not simply 1, 2, 3, 4 like that. It will be 3 times of that. Plutam. Double is Guru. 3 times is Plutam. 4 times is Kakapada. So you have from 1 to 16, you have names. This is called the Shodasanga. Shadanga and the Shodasanga. This development has already taken place. So this we are trying to recover and apply the evolved principles of play today and apply it to these uncommon kind of talas. So I will just request the team to play the recent experiment we did, and after that we will come back for the questions. Don't believe in mixing up languages. Let me speak in simple English. Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha.
Is it audible to everyone? The sound of YouTube channel?
Yes.
In 2013, I had the opportunity to host the 90th birthday of Guruji at Delhi. At that time, he said, all these experiments should reach the audience academically. In any art form, there is an academic side of it. There are three parts. One is knowledge, which is received. We are practicing the received wisdom. Then the pedagogy. Who transmitted, we do not know. But from 19th century, we are able to construct that kind of a transmission. Standing example is Guruji. For me, as a researcher, he is the link between the past and the present. In fact, it has inspired me to write a biography of him, which I am doing it. It's not just his biography, but the art of drumming in 19th and 20th century. He asked me to explain each experiment, to put it in context rather. I will just show in 5-10 minutes the academic side of it. Today we are going to do a 17-beat tala. It is offbeat rather. Not everyone attempts a 17. But how this 17 came about, how to think about it, it is that which he has asked me to do, which I am doing in all three languages, Hindi, English and Tamil. First, the proposition, time. In Tamil, we call ourselves Kala Kanakargal. We are concerned with time. So, the concept of time, that is the basis. And if we go to, modern day expression, cultural ideology, if you use that, space is circular disposition. Time is cyclical disposition. There is a difference between circular disposition and cyclical disposition. We have adopted cyclical in music. The second aspect is, if you go through our literature, the cultic time was there in Vedas. Interiorized time was in Upanishads. All these are technical, I am not making it a seminar, just information. And philosophers made this into power, Shakti, Devata, deity, and self, Atman. People have been writing a lot about it. So this is not the place to go into all that. I will only give you a small example, how it got associated with Shiva. Just one example, because Trivandrum is a very erudite and eminent place which understood the Shastras. I am reminded of Professor Srinivasan, whom I interacted about 30-40 years ago. He has written a lot. See, nowadays this holistic thing has come back. Unlike the MBBS who practiced everything, Now a mechanic who tinkers with the bumper, that specialization, he reads everything into that. So once again, this interdisciplinarity has brought this holistic thing. So the first example I want to give, how Abhinava Bharati relates it to Shiva. I offer threefold praise to this octiform body, Shiva, whose essence is illusion, holding a token of enjoyment, in whom there is perfect equilibrium of all worldly activity by means of divisions. Kalas, time, kala. And third, rest. The meaning of laya is rest, as per Abhinava Bharati. Anyhow, this is only two. The way that we have practiced from 19th century, all our literature speak about Tala Dasa Pranas. Anyone who is introduced to musicology, it's all known to them. Where we have Kala, 12 divisions of absolute time, Shana to Kakapada, Marga, the density of events, Kriya, the collective term for hand gestures. See, hand gestures are now being traced from Vedic intonations. People are working on that. Hand gestures in each music culture is being worked out. Anga, the component parts of the particular tala cycle as signaled by the gestures. Then Gata. So normally we say Dhritam. It consists of a Gata and a Usi. Or if you go to Hindustan, it is the Tali and the Kali. So there is kind of a commonality in all these things. Jati, expanded versions of the basic tala patterns. Kala, the variable unit of time. Laya, the three tempos. We understand Laya as the three tempos. That is the slow, moderate, and the fast. And Yati, all those who practice Mridangam, they know about the Vishamayati and all that. Then Prastara. This is the hallmark of Indian rhythmic culture. You have a full chapter in Sarangadeva's work on Prastara. So now I don't want to go into it, but about the experiment today, 35 talas, Mahaguru Vaidyanatha there thought about it, composed rhythm, Mora, Korvai for all the 35 talas. What is the greatness of Guruji is, he has used the same expressions and constructions and applied it to whatever rhythm he composes. So in 108 talas. We have chosen one today. Whatever is rhythmical is pleasant. Whatever is non-rhythmical, it is irritation. I would like to say. It is pleasant and irritation. Raga obeys principles of qualitative harmony and Laya lends scope for quantitative harmony. Sanchara kramas, we can go on. So now, coming to the point, Ashtotra Satatalams, all of us we know there are 108 talas. The first 5 are called the Marga talas. Chachaputa, Chachapudam, Marga talas. They are 5. Rest are Desi, 103. Initially, if you see in the text, you will find first 3 have Kandalagu. Generally, when we say, we only put 4. But in the 5, originally it was 5 actually, Kandalagu. So the 103 has Chadusra Lagu. So when we say Lagu here, it is 4. When we say Plitam, it is 3 into 4. So it comes under the Desi talas and it is the 59th talas. So the features of model talas are combination of angas, and when we go into the medieval Nayak literature, you have a form called Shabdams. And for Simhanandanam, for the 108, they have composed Shabdams. So when we go deep into research, we get all those things. So now when we take this particular talam, when we start getting exclusive Tala literature from 17th century. In the earlier treatises, there will be only one chapter. Tala Deepika, etc. You will have exclusively they deal with the Tala. So now when we see Panjamarabu, Bharata Sangraham, Tala Samudram, all that, we get names. The Talam which we are going to do today is called Pratapasekaram. It is 59th Tala. The same one is also known as Raja Vengalam in some texts. And then Sekara Jambai. So that creates the confusion whether the Aksharams are 17 or the Aksharams are 15 or Aksharams are 13. So here we have to go by the text. Guruji has always been following Tala Samudra. The Angas are actually defined in Venba. Say for example here, it is the use of Plutam. 12, 2, in some 12 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1. But in some texts, in Tala Samudram, there 2 and 1 is combined, then it is called Dhrita Segaram. So similarly, when 1 is combined, Sekara Jambai. So that also, these kinds of confusion, let us not go into the research. Now I think I will hand it over to Mr. Jayaraman to explain the Talam. And my job is not to introduce the, they are all disciples of Guruji. So I will request Mr. Jayaraman to introduce the artist and the Talam and then take over. Thank you very much for giving this offer.
வந்து 17 அக்ஷரம். ஓப்பனிங் ஸ்டார்டிங் வந்து புலித்தம். புலித்தம் வந்து 12 பீட்ஸ். 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. இது 12 பீட்ஸ். Then Dhrutam 1, 2. Then Dhrutasekara 1, 2, 3. So totally 17 numbers. So இது வந்து இந்த ஒரு ஒர்க்கை வந்து மியூசிக் கம்போஸ் பண்ணுறது, அதுக்கப்புறமா நம்ம ஒவ்வொருத்தரையும் இணைக்கிறது வந்து ஒரு மிகப்பெரிய டஃப்பான ஜாப் தான் அது. பட் இத்தனை பேரும் எனக்கு கோஆப்ரேட் பண்ணலைன்னா இந்த ஒரு அச்சீவ்மெண்ட்டை பண்ணவே முடியாது. இது வந்து இண்டிவிஜுவல் ஒர்க்கே கிடையாது, குரூப் ஒர்க்கு தான். ஒவ்வொருத்தரும் இம்பார்ட்டன்ட், ஒவ்வொரு இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட்டும் இம்பார்ட்டன்ட், ஒவ்வொருத்தரோட ஐடியாஸும் இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். ஸோ ஒவ்வொருத்தருடைய ஐடியாஸும் என்னென்ன இருக்குங்கிறத இதே 17 அக்ஷரத்துக்கு ஒவ்வொருத்தரும் என்னென்ன ஐடியாஸ் வச்சுருக்காங்கங்கிறத அவங்களுடைய வாசிப்புலேருந்தே நீங்கள் கேட்கலாம். ஸோ ஒவ்வொருத்தருடைய ஸ்பெஷல் ஐடியாஸ் அதெல்லாமும் இதில் இன்னைக்கு தெரிய வரும். இது வந்து ஒரு குரூப் ஒர்க்காக நாங்கள் எடுத்து எல்லாருடைய உழைப்பினாலையும் ஒரு குரூப் ஒர்க்குனால இதை எடுத்து நாங்கள் செஞ்சுக்கிட்டு இருக்கோம். இது 17 அக்ஷரம் மட்டுமல்ல, பல தாளங்கள், 23 அக்ஷரம், 19 அக்ஷரம், 29 அக்ஷரம், 31 அக்ஷரம், இந்த மாதிரி ஃபுல் நம்பர்ஸாக இல்லாமல் 31 அந்த மாதிரி வர்ற நம்பர்ஸாக எடுத்து ஜனங்களுக்கு அதை நான் எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணிவிட்டு இதுக்கப்புறமா இந்த அவர் டி.கே. மூர்த்தி அப்பா வந்து எப்படி ரிதம் கம்போஸ் பண்ணியிருக்காங்கங்கிறத நான் எடுத்து நல்ல ஆடியன்ஸுக்கு புரிய வைக்கணுங்கிறதுக்காக தான் இந்த முயற்சி நடக்கிறது. ஸோ இந்தியாவிலேயே எனக்கு ஒரு ப்ரௌடான ஒரு விஷயத்தை நான் சொல்லணும். இந்தியாவில் மட்டும் இல்லை, என்டையர் வேர்ல்டில் வந்து ரிதம் கம்போசருங்கிற ஒரு ஐடியாஸ் வந்து ரொம்ப குறைச்சலானது. ரிதம் கம்போசருங்கிறது அவ்வளவு நிறைய பேர் கிடையாது. அதுவும் ஸ்பெஷலாக 35 தாளாஸ், 72 மேலகர்த்தா தாளாஸ், 108 தாளாஸ், திருப்புகழ் தாளா, இது அத்தனைக்கும் மோரா கோர்வைகளை கம்போஸ் பண்ணி இத்தனை பேரையும் அவர் தயார் பண்ணியிருக்காரு. அவருடைய அந்த ஐடியாவை நானும் ஏதோ கொஞ்சம் கேட்டுக்கிட்டு நானும் இவளோட சேர்ந்து நானும் ஒரு சிஷ்யன் தான். நானும் அவருடைய சிஷ்யனா இருந்து ஒரு முயற்சி பண்றோம். இதில் சின்ன மிஸ்டேக்ஸ் வரலாம், வராமலாம் இருக்காதுங்களாம் சொல்ல முடியாது. ஏன்னா ஒரு டஃப்பான தாளத்தில் ரொம்ப ஹெவி கான்சென்ட்ரேட் பண்ணி தான் இது செஞ்சாகும். ஸோ அதுக்கு ஒரு முயற்சி பண்ணிக்கிட்டு இருக்கோம். இது மணிசாருடைய ரொம்ப கோஆப்ரேட்டினால்தான் இந்த மாதிரியான விஷயங்களை எங்களால் செய்ய முடியுது. ஏன்னா இது எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்ணாமல்லாம் இந்த தாளத்தெல்லாம் போட்டுக்கிட்டு எதுவும் பாடிட முடியாது. ஸோ இதுக்கு எவிடன்ஸ் வரும். என்னென்ன எவிடன்ஸ் இருக்குங்கிறத நல்லா தெரிஞ்ச ஒருத்தர் டிகேவி வெங்கடசுப்ரமணியம், ப்ரொஃபஸர், டீன், டெல்லி யூனிவர்சிட்டி. ஸோ அவருடைய ஃபுல் கோஆப்ரேஷனால தான் எங்களுடைய இந்த ஒர்க்கை எங்களால் தொடர்ந்து செய்ய முடியுது. ஆடியன்ஸ் எல்லாரும் இதை என்ஜாய் பண்ணுவீங்கன்னு நான் நம்புகிறேன். ஒரு முயற்சி பண்ணி பார்ப்போம். இந்த பாட்டு பத்மாசினி விஸ்வநாதன் சத்யமூர்த்தி சாருடைய அம்மா தான் இந்த பாட்டை எழுதினாங்க. முருகன் மேலே இந்த பாட்டை எழுதியிருக்காங்க. அவங்க எனக்கு இந்த ஒரு பாட்டு மட்டும் இல்லை, தெலுங்கில் நிறைய பாட்டு எழுதி கொடுத்துருக்காங்க. அதுவும் இந்த மாதிரியான தாளத்துக்கு நாங்கள் செட் பண்ணியிருக்கோம். அப்புறமா சான்ஸ்கிரிட்ல எழுதியிருக்காங்க. அதுவும் அதெல்லாம் கம்போஸ் பண்ணி எல்லாத்தையும் ரெடி பண்ணி தான் வச்சுருக்கோம். ஒவ்வொரு இடத்துலையும் ஒவ்வொரு டைப்ஸ் ஆஃப் தாளத்தில் இதை செய்யணும். ஸோ ஆடியன்ஸ் எல்லாரும் என்கரேஜ் பண்ணிங்கன்னா இன்னும் நல்லா பண்ணுவோம். வேலவா வடிவேலவா வேலவா வடிவேலவா சரவண பவமுக சிவகுமார வேலவா வடிவேலவா சரவண பவமுக சிவகுமார வேலவா வடிவேலவா சரவண பவமுக சிவகுமார வேலவா வடிவேலவா. கோலமயில் மீது தேவியரிருவர் மேவிய குமார அழகா கோலமயில் மீது தேவியரிருவர் மேவிய குமார அழகா அனுதினம் உன்னை கோலமயில் மீது தேவியரிருவர் மேவிய குமார அழகா அனுதினம் உன்னை காடும் வரையும் தர அன்பரு கருவா कृपाकरा वेलव वडिवेलव सरवण भवतुग षण्मुग शिवकुमार वेलव वडिवेलव உபதேசம் செய்தவா பழம் வேண்டி சினமடைந்து பழனி மலை நின்றவா பழனி மலை நின்றவா பழனி மலை நின்றவா பழனி மலை நின்றவா பழனி மலை நின்றவா
I think we can stop here.
Sir, may I request you to put talam and show, but I could not clearly see how they were putting the pangas on
Yeah.
the 17 weeks.
Yeah, see, the thing is, if you can call it a bandish, this particular song was composed to fit in with the span. Okay, I will show. What is used here is plutam, 3 times of the lagu. Okay, I will
Three
show.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
13.
That is 12 is 1 unit.
Yeah. Then
That is Dhrutam,
yes.
which is the term which we are using.
Yes.
Second one is Dhrutam,
Yes.
Kali. Third one is 3, Dhrita Sekaram.
Okay. That is how?
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. That is the second half.
Okay.
So the bandish is actually composed to fit in with this.
Okay.
What they have done is these are some of the things which I wanted to add in concluding remarks. It won't be like Ari. It will be Laya Vinyas. See, I want people to make that distinction, Layakari and Laya Vinyas. The Laya Vinyas is the operation of permutation talked about in a chapter by Sarangadeva. Prastara. You do Prastara in Swar. Here we do Prastara in Solfa syllables. Layakari is based on Tekas. We compose the syllables. Ta, ti, dom, nam, din, tam. So that combination, aksharas and matras, we make that permutation combination. My guru is the master of that. That is why we are calling him a rhythm composer. Only rhythm composer in India. What was evolved for 35 in 19th century, he has now applied it to 108. This is an example from 108. So hand gesture, by way of concluding remarks, I would like to say, the purpose of this lecture is conceptual thinking. Simply, instead of teaching this, the concept of time and how it has evolved from cosmological time to musical time. That is what is expected in the music department, classroom. So PhDs also should know those kinds of this thing, that conceptual thinking. Then time has worked in history also. Time plays an important role in performance tradition also. It is differently. So multiplicity of time everybody has talked about. We have only focused on the musical time. A historian should know the musical time. A musician should know the historical time. This is the plea that I am placing before. Then only it will become interdisciplinary. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity. Any other question? I am prepared to answer.
I have two more questions.
Please.
As you said,
Let me interrupt. Minal, please try to summarize it क्योंकि हमें वो lunch break भी
yes.
करना है. And you can later on, we will provide you email of sir. You
Kindly
can
share
contact,
my email ID. I am prepared to answer.
yeah, you can email them and get your answers.
Sure, sure. No problem.
Apology. You can ask question, but make it short.
Yeah, I just want to ask you, there is a mention of Deshadi Tala when I was going through the pre-Trinity, Trinity composers list of compositions. So what is the difference between Deshadi and Adi Tala?
See, Desadi is simply count 4. So that also will include some kind of counting has to be there. But here it is structured development. You are attributing it. It is what is Lagu? Whether it is the employment of 5 or whether it is the employment Sangir, 9 also has been there. So people have also experimented. Standing before the pendulum, you can utter five letters, and people said that's the second. Kachadatapa. See, takadimi, we are saying takadimi, 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 takadimi. This is called the universal rhythm. Takita, 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 tadikita, tadikita, tadikita. Within that universal rhythm, you are changing it, isn't it? You are putting 5 into the place where it is 4, or 3 into the place where it is 4, or 9 into the place which is actually 4. That has come down to us, the five varieties. Interestingly, all this can be tracked because our textual tradition is complete. So while doing research, knowledge of Sanskrit, knowledge of Tamil, if you are working on this thing, knowledge of Malayalam, if you are working on Sobana music, without language, that is the prerequisite. Second, the instrument and the what language it speaks. The instruments speak different. Tawil and Mardangam don't speak the same language. The meta language is slightly different. And to adapt it to Ganjira, that is much more difficult. And it's much more free to play is in Gadam because what you play with 4 fingers, now you play with 10 fingers. Isn't it? So each instrument has its own problems. But the thought, what I try to place before you is the rhythmic thought, musical thought, how to think about it from tradition to the present day, and then along with other indigenous culture ideas, etc., and then to track. It should not be thought in isolation. It should be always thought in concentration with others. So that's why I have tried to combine history and music. So one has been my profession, and now after retirement, it's a passion.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. I'll briefly summarize the session for all of us. Professor T.K. Venkatasubramanian, sir, guided us on how time has been considered as a fundamental dimension of existence, growth, development, and vitality, and has been developed as a human concept for orientation of human activities. Sir also highlighted some of the definitions of time as stated by various authors, with characters like homogeneity, discreteness, and directionality. And it also has to do with past, present, and future. The indigenous concept of time has been perceived as a cyclical concept where distinction between cosmic and earthly time has also been done, where division of units of time are described in Indian context from Paramanu to Yuga and other celestial time units. Sir also highlighted that the repetitiveness or the cyclic nature of the Indian rhythm concept or time concept suggests renewability as applied in the concept of rhythm. Several art forms such as Kudiyatam combine linearity and cyclic concept of time to come up with possibilities and perception of continuity through compartmentalization of different parts of the performance. Indian concept also mentions long and short syllables, which were further developed into concept of matra, and later further evolved into Shadang and Shodasang, where Lagu, Guru, Krutam, Dhrutam, Anudhritam, etc., and their equivalent in Western classical music. Abhinav Gupta has mentioned the concept of time as ebb and flow of tones and tone groups or accents. This concept further evolved into the Tala Dashaprana and Sashabd and Nishad Kriyas. The entire process had cultural influences, including circular concept of space and cyclical concept of time. Gesture language, symbolic ritual connotations, which was known as sonic theory. Brahma, who is perceived as time as well as timeless, and understanding the profound connection between Kal, Lay, and Tal, where Kal is considered absolute as well as abstract, and Lay is considered the space between Kriyas. And through Sir's lecture, we understood how the existence of Kriyas in the historical time frame, thereby highlighting the evolution of the concepts of Tal, Kriya, and Kal, Lay, and Tal. The entire lecture highlighted on how the concept of time was used as a medium for the evolution of rhythm in Indian music, particularly with emphasis on Carnatic music, the development of 35, 72, and 108 talas, their application into the modern how we perceive tal and its applications. We thank you, Dr. Professor T.K. Venkatasubramanian sir, for this enlightening lecture, and we hope to be associated with you for your further guidance. And we'll now
Thank you very much. I just have to pay a compliment. Without a PPT, the online lecture also has a greater diffusion potential. That comes out very well in your summary. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We shall part ways for half an hour for a brief lunch break and convene again at 2:30 sharp to have the next sessions. Thank you so much.
एंड वेट अ मिनट, सारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स से एक रिक्वेस्ट है कि आज जब फोर्थ सेशन खत्म होगा तो उसके बाद थोड़ा रुकिएगा। हमारे कोऑर्डिनेटर प्रोफेसर गौरांग भावसार या फिर हमारी कमेटी में से कोई एक, ऑर्गेनाइजिंग कमेटी का कोई एक दो मेंबर, जो एग्जाम के रिलेटेड थोड़ी बहुत दिक्कत हो गई है तो उसका थोड़ा एक ब्रीफ आपको आज हम शाम तक बता देंगे। अकॉर्डिंगली आप लोग अपना अरेंजमेंट करिएगा। हम लोग ऑफिशियली एक मेल भी करेंगे आप सबको, ताकि अगर वो आपको कहीं पे प्रेजेंट करना है तो दैट कैन बी हेल्पफुल। सो आज जब चारों सेशन खत्म हो जाएंगे तब थोड़ी देर रुकिएगा, सिर्फ आज के दिन। थैंक यू सर। वी ऑल शैल
Thank you so
मीट
much.
at 2:30
Okay,
after
sir.
lunch break. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.